Hello, welcome to the Logistics Business Virtual Show. We have a series of expert panels addressing many of the most important issues in logistics and in intralogistics. And I'm delighted to say that for this panel, we're going to be discussing the growing and very exciting and very important area of robotics, particularly the opportunity that robots give to collaborate with people. And I'm joined by an expert panel from around Europe. So I will ask them to introduce themselves to you briefly in a moment. But just to say before that, if you have questions for any of our panelists, do please use the chat facility and our panelists will endeavour to answer those for you. So without further ado, let's steam in. And I'll ask everyone, as I say, to introduce themselves briefly. Let's start with you, Simon.
Good morning, my name's Simon Jones. I'm from Six River Systems and we're part of the Shopify group. And we focus on providing solutions for each picking in the warehouse for store replenishment and e-commerce.
Thank you. Now, Nicola.
My name is Nicola Tomatis. I'm the CEO of the company Robotics, and Robotics is providing a navigation technology for any kind of AGV, AMR, or automated forklift.
Thank you. Now, Marcel.
Hello from Germany. My name is Marcel. I'm responsible for sales and marketing at Robotics. Robotics is a provider of mobile robots for in-house logistics, and our main purpose is to provide cost-efficient and easy to implement transport automation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Samuel?
Hello, my name is Samuel Alexandersson. I work at Colmorgan as a manager for the product management department. And we provide automated platforms to our partners so that they can build mobile robots.
And last but not least, Matt.
Yeah, hi there. Matt Woods from Tennant Company. I'm a national account manager within Tennant. We provide cleaning solutions across the globe, including autonomous solutions.
Thank you. So the title of our panel is really collaboration or conflict. So I'm going to come on to that, but it seems to me that before we do that, all of you represent such different sectors of solutions within the robotic context that I think we should get a sense of what are the different types. So one question I've got, for example, is what is the difference between an AGV and a robot? Those are both words that we hear a lot. Somebody who would like to answer that for me?
I'll have a stab at that, Paul, if it's all right.
Yeah, please do.
I mean, for me, it's an AGV. There's really sort of, you can break down the robots in the warehouse into two groups, if you like. There is the point-to-point robot, which is carrying a pallet or a carton or a case or a tote from one point in the robot in the warehouse to another point, effectively providing a virtual conveyor. And they have a relatively low cost of entry, and in certain situations they can provide obviously a good solution. The other type, which we would sort of call collaborative robots, are where it's actually part of a complete solution fulfilling a particular process. So in our case, it's picking and replenishment. And actually the software is as important, if not more important, in controlling and coordinating those robots, working with the individuals in the pick phase, providing a complete solution in terms of improving productivity and making the job easier for the staff.
Sure. Anybody like to add anything to that? Nicola, I know because of course Robotics is a company that it carries across the piece. So would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, just be careful about the wording. I mean, very often if you talk to industrial people, if you say AGV and robot, in terms of robot, they think industrial robot. So the arm doing things. I think we should make clear if we're talking about AGVs versus AMRs or AGVs versus industrial robots. These are two different questions.
Right. Sorry, yes, go ahead.
I would maybe add, I think we could call them maybe mobile robots, and we could still distinguish the mobile robots into AGVs and AMRs, as you said. And the other ones, yeah, are probably, we could call them handling robots. Yeah.
What about this phrase gantry robots? What would our readers understand from that, viewers?
A handling robot. I'm not 100% sure if I used the right English word for it, but if I'm talking about a handling robot, I mean robots like vertical robots or bottle robots. And if I'm talking about a mobile robot, we're talking about AGVs and AMRs, as you said before.
Correct.
Let me give you a chance then. I mean, the other thing is that robots are used in so many different contexts. Let me give you a chance to talk about some of the contexts in which they're used. I mean, Matt, you have a cleaning robot. Talk about that for us in a warehouse and logistics context.
Yeah, so we provide a number of autonomous mobile robot solutions within warehousing, logistics, also within the retailer sector too. So what we're finding is a real push towards automated cleaning within these environments, but it's more with the mindset of cobotics, and I'm sure we've probably all used that word and probably heard that word, cobotics. And certainly in this day and age, you know, it's enabling companies to use an automated solution to work alongside employees, so they can focus essentially on high value tasks. So once, for example, the robot is set up, the area has been mapped, the robot is away and doing its thing, cleaning the floor. The person who would normally be sat on the robot or even walking on the cleaning machine, sorry, or even walking behind the cleaning machine can therefore, you know, redeploy their labor, their effort to go off and do another task. So I think in a nutshell for me, we're talking cobotics.
Okay. Samuel, tell us about Kollmorgen and what it contributes to the robotics debate.
I think we provide a very horizontal approach. So we provide automated vehicles for different sectors. So we have a horizontal platform, and we allow our partners who builds the vehicles to customize their solutions. So it's not for one vertical, it's for many different verticals. And then together we find a good solution for the markets.
So you work with different types, you will work with AGVs, with AMRs, etc.
Our traditionally we have worked mainly with AGVs, but we are also working on AMRs right now. So there's a slight difference there between those, as mentioned here before. AGVs are more following a predefined path, where AMRs can, for example, more easily drive around obstacles and navigate a bit more freely, meaning that AMRs are more flexible, while AGVs are more productive, you could say.
Would you, with the other guys, would you all agree with that? The flexibility of AMRs via AGVs?
Well, I personally think that it's a very individual decision. If considering the use case, which is a better solution, there are many advantages that, or many points that are good about AMRs, but there are also good points about AGVs. Like, for example, today the technology of the AGVs is often cheaper than the ones for AMRs, for example. So you get cheaper solutions if you use an AGV, but on the other hand, you have to make a trade-off because, as you said before, you're not as flexible as you are with an AMR, for example. So I think it's a very individual decision, and you can't really make a general statement about that.
Yeah, I want to come back later on to how that decision is made. So we will return to that. Nicola, did you want to add anything to that point?
Well, Robotics is similar to Kollmorgen in the sense that we provide a platform technology to automate vehicles. For us, and I would expect also for Kollmorgen either now or soon, the difference between AGV and AMR is very tiny. Our technology allows to both use predefined paths or use obstacle avoidance, and to use traffic management in parallel. So basically, it's the customer that can choose which one of the functionality it activates for a certain use case, and it can even mix the functionality. So it could be the same vehicle that does AMR's functionality on the right and AGV functionality on the left. So in my perspective, I cannot even say if our customers, they are selling AMRs or AGVs. And personally, I find a little bit extreme, this separation. Of course, if we talk about a very old AGV following a cable on the floor, I think we all agree this is an AGV. But I think today it's a kind of mix in between, and there is not only AGV or AMRs, there is a lot of options in the middle that can do probably the best work for a certain use case.
So you're saying there's a place for both types of technology?
Yes.
I agree to that. And I think, yes, Nicola is into here, that these technologies will go into being the same product here in a not too far distant.
Yeah.
So we are also, exactly as mentioned here, that we take the best parts of the AMRs and we take the best parts of the AGVs to find a really good solution.
Okay, thank you.
If I can jump on that, in the past, when the AMR name came, we had really the extreme that was AMR, they do obstacle avoidance, AGVs, they do traffic management. The truth is AMRs without traffic management, sorry, they are not very useful. Because if you have unless you are using 1 or 2 vehicles and that's it. So the future is probably using both, using obstacle avoidance when you need it, but always use traffic management to have a maximal productivity. So we try to separate them in the beginning and they are coming back and merging now, in my perspective.
Well, can I just jump in? Because I think, from our point of view, it depends very much on the application and what you're trying to achieve with the operation. For our particular application, it has to be a mobile robot, an autonomous mobile robot. An automated guided vehicle wouldn't work in the way that we would need it to work in order to drive the productivity in the way that we do. So I think it sort of goes back to the point I made originally. If you're moving one thing from one point to another, there's a variety of technologies you can use, but if in a particular solution to solve a specific problem, then you are going to need one or the other, or it depends on what's required for that solution.
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah, I was going to come to this later, but it feels like it's the right time to talk about it now. Can we dig into the detail on how you work with a customer to make sure you get that decision right? And, Simon, you talked about flexibility, and your product provides a flexibility that an AGV would not be able to do. How do you work with a customer to make sure that the right decision is made? I'll come to you first, and then we'll come to everybody else.
Well, it's a great question, and in our case, it's a step-by-step approach. It's initial discussions with the customer. It's understanding what they're trying to achieve. In our case, and that's one I can talk about with most authority. We're going to customers who are picking for e-commerce or for store replenishment. So it's looking at the warehouse. It's understanding how their business operates, what their key pain points are, and right now that's often about the availability of labor, and then basically crunching some numbers and working out, based on what their current operation is, how we know our operation can improve in certain situations, and then coming out with a concept that will demonstrate how much the improvement would be and what that would cost. So at the end of the day, it's very much a financial decision. Is it going to drive the benefit that's required for the solution?
Okay, thank you. As I say, I want to give everybody a chance to answer on this one. So let me come to you, Marcel, next.
Yeah, well, I think I gave a brief answer to that before, a difference between AMR and AGV. I think flexibility is a big point that you have to consider when you make that decision, if it's an AMR or an AGV. We basically offer AGV solutions, so our customers normally have applications where they have repeating routes, or like where the paths are predefined. When you plan your layout, where the vehicle must go. It doesn't mean that we can't do crossings, etc. We can also do complex layouts, but you need to know the layout. And in our experience, this layout that you need to know is normally known. So in most of the application cases, we can solve the customer's problems with an AGV. But when we come to a point where we see, okay, there's more flexibility required than we can offer with an AGV, then we normally work together with our partner Gephardt. They also offer a mobile, an AMR. We again go to them and refer them to them, because we have to be honest with our customers. In some cases, you can't solve it with an AGV, but there are many use cases where an AGV is sufficient, I would say.
Okay, Nicola, let me come to you next on that.
Well, remember that we are technology suppliers, so it's our customer going to the end customer. But what I can share with you is that today, indeed, with mobile robots, and I use Marcel's definition then to keep both together, there is a huge amount of possible application and markets. Our customer, they automate vehicle going from 200 kilograms to 100 tons with the same exact navigation system. So our goal as a technology supplier is to provide the largest, let's say, palette of different functionality that then the vehicle supplier can choose and configure in order to make sure that he will then make the end customer happy by providing the best possible solution for the use case. And I think this is something that is changing in the last years. What we see is that there are still quite easy point-to-point applications, but the places where there is the most return on investment is more in very complex applications. It can be e-commerce because it's highly dynamic, very complex. Traffic is a key issue. What it can be, we had an example, production of semiconductors. Production of semiconductors is probably the most complex process when you have to produce something. And using AGVs or AMLs there, it's really, I mean, I was just impressed for ABB semiconductors. It took 3 years just to analyze the problem and find out what was the right setup between the machine producing and then the movement of the different parts. It's really a huge thing they did, but the return on investment they have now is absolutely huge. So again, as a technology supplier, our goal is to develop more and more different functionality that can be configured to then answer to the needs of the end customer.
So yeah, so you, as you say, you described yourself as a technology supplier. So you would work with, for example, integrators and others, and they would use your technology rather than you selling direct to customers.
Vehicle suppliers, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Let's come to you now, Matt. How do you work with customers to identify what's the right solution for them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I pretty much echo what Simon said at the top there. In terms of, you know, we work with a customer, it's very site specific. There's a very site specific survey that needs to be carried out before we can even really get into the autonomous discussion. I mean, for us, Paul, you know, we manufacture cleaning machines. That's what we do. We've partnered with the guys who look after the software element, so we haven't kind of done it the other way, created a robot that cleans. We've done it. We've used existing platforms of machines that are tried and tested with years worth of heritage. So we know ultimately we're providing a clean, safe environment, a clean, safe, healthy floor. What we're looking to do then is take to the next level of autonomizing that process. So it all begins with, you know, contacting the customers, or the customers will often reach out to us. We'll go to site, carry out a very detailed survey around, well, there's probably 40 odd questions within that survey that need answering. We then look at, you know, a potential return on investment. We look at, you know, addressing any labour challenges, you know, driving efficiencies. But ultimately for us, it's maintaining a high standard of cleanliness. And ultimately that is what we need to end up at. Regardless if it's manual or autonomous, it needs to be a clean, healthy floor. And as I said to you before, you know, ultimately, we would then look at maybe a demonstration, a pilot, and really providing the metrics behind the offer. So it's not just providing a machine, it's actually what can we do once the machine has been deployed in terms of proof of performance. So that's quite a key consideration with contract cleaning customers. So, you know, they come to us and say, well, we need to provide a proof of performance. How can you do that? So that could be around weekly data, heat maps of cleaning. So, for example, well, that area has been cleaned, but you can see on the heat map that that area hasn't. So what are the factors behind that? So there's an awful lot that goes into providing that final solution.
It's also,
yeah.
customers, but how do you work?
Yeah, exactly. So we are in a similar approach as Nicola there at Robotics. So we have a partner network who works directly to the customers within different segments.
Sure.
Okay. Paul, if I might add something, because I think I somehow misunderstood your question a bit. I was rather talking about AMRs and AGVs and how we support our customers. I would like to add something to that. we normally distinguish our customers in complex use cases and not so complex use cases.
Okay.
And for the customers with not so complex use cases, we try to offer standard solutions where they can get to a solution very quickly, which is also part of our philosophy. We want to lead the customer to a solution as quick as possible, so it's as cost efficient as possible for them as well. Because in our experience, sometimes they think it's too complex, but actually it's not. In some very simple use cases, and for that we even developed a online configurator where our customers can, as a first step, if they don't want to talk to us straight away, they can configure their use case, and then within 5 days they get a first budgetary offer with a solution draft from us. So this is one step we're doing to make the whole consultation process with our customer faster. Of course, after that we're going into consultation and detailed planning, etc. But we are able to give our customers a solution draft just from a 5-minute online configuration.
Okay, thank you. Now, coming back to our broad theme, collaboration or conflict. The historic view, the traditional view outside is that robots are there to get rid of people. So let's go around and disprove that, if indeed that's what you wish to do. So, okay, let's come back to you, Simon. What does collaborative mean in this context? And why is it not getting rid of people?
Well, it's always a question that gets asked, and you're absolutely right. But for us, it's about helping the operators do their job more efficiently and effectively, but also more easily. Because if you picture a warehouse and you're picking in a manual warehouse that's looking for e-commerce, you can walk up to 20 miles a day, pushing a heavy trolley. That's a hard job. And frankly, it's a job that a decreasing number of people want to do. So what we tend to see, we don't see this conflict, if I'm really honest, because what we're seeing, and really the US aren't always ahead of us in many things, but that's a contentious issue we can talk about later. But actually, in terms of labor shortage, they're well ahead of us. They've had a labor shortage for the last 4 years. And it's one of the things that's driven our growth dramatically over there. And we're starting to see that over here. So it's not a question of how many people are we going to replace. Typically, our solution will mean that you require between a third and half of the number of pickers that you need with a manual operation. But the problem is not getting rid of those people. It's actually, how can I find enough people to work in my warehouse, and how can I keep hold of them? So what collaborative robots does, in our view, is make that job more attractive, makes it easier, and widens the labor pool, so you can actually attract a wider range of employees and who can work effectively, efficiently, and without any industrial injuries in terms of repetitive strain or lifting and moving large objects.
Is it true, Simon, just before I move on to the other panelists, it's often said, oh, staff can be redeployed to other tasks. Does that actually happen in your experience? Yeah,
and a major part of that is, and I'm sure this goes for the other panelists, is that a good robotic system will actually be very easy to learn for an operator. So for example, typically in a warehouse, if you take on a new picker, you won't expect them to get up to the speed of your existing employees inside between 2 and 4 weeks. It takes a long time for them to learn the processes, learn where the things are and where the quickest routes are. With a collaborative robot solution such as ours, they will be up to speed within 2 hours. Now that makes a massive difference when you come to peak periods, for example, and you've got to hire a lot of temps. And a lot of our customers, what they do is when they're faced with that situation, they will hire the temps and they'll
obviously that we have some UK panelists here, but we also have 3 of our panelists with Sweden, Germany, and Switzerland, I believe. So, staff shortages is a huge issue in the UK. It's making national news at the moment. Is it the same in your countries, or is it not?
A global challenge. So we work on a global level, and I can only echo that. When I talk to customers or end customers, it's more around the difficulties to find new labor and the retention rates that is very common, especially in warehouses. So it's not about it's the difficulties of finding new personnel, and I think the view is that, or the common view from many is that the robots are coming to take the jobs, and there's a picture of Terminator or something like that. But there is more to this. So if you look at the research, for example, from the World Economic Forum, the workforce is automating faster than expected. So in a 5-year perspective, it's displacing 85 million jobs, but the robot revolution also creates 97 million jobs. So all in all, automation will not remove jobs, but it will create more jobs, but it will be different roles.
Right. Right. Nicola, anything to add to that?
Yeah, several things, if I can.
Yeah, no, please do, please do.
No, I think I'm maybe more direct than other people by saying explicitly that automation is reducing jobs in certain fields. Again, Simon was saying 30% in his application, so this is absolutely normal. The challenge, of course, is converting this job in other jobs. Then statistics, this is also absolutely right from Samuel, show that today we create more jobs than those that we replace. So that's again positive. Then the challenge is, I'm sorry to talk about that because it's a little bit over discussed already, but we have an aging population, so the workforce shortage will be a world problem. Even will be a problem for China also soon. So it's really a problem that we have to address. The challenge we have today is that we are obliged to increase productivity in order to serve all the population we have. Now, in the short term, the problem is also a question of competition. For highly developed countries, you need to increase productivity, otherwise the alternative is offshoring to cheaper countries. But this is just in the short term. If you look to statistics, even China today is as expensive as Spain in terms of labor cost for production. So all the prices will increase worldwide, and we need to increase productivity. There are no way out. So indeed, it is a challenge to find how to convert the jobs that are replaced, but we have no other solution than investing in automation to increase productivity, because the population is increasing worldwide. By the way, that's why today we have a lot of reshoring, not offshoring. So production is coming back to US, it's coming back to many countries that thought this was a job for someone else. Really, we can only, those that think we have to protect jobs is thinking short term. We have so much work to do. We have a larger population, we live longer, and if we have to produce for all these people, we need automation. The big question, of course, for the sustainability of the world is how to produce more by using less resources. That's the big challenge for the future. But automation is a must.
If I can just add to that, Paul, and absolutely agree with everything you said there, Nicola. It's very difficult to offshore an e-commerce warehouse. You know, you might be able to do it, well, even with, you know, the current situation, it's hard to offshore one from the UK to Europe unless you're only dealing in Europe. So I absolutely agree with that. But you know, in the web, particularly in e-commerce and store replenishment, it's not an industry you can offshore.
Sure. Just actually, I just want to move on to Matt, because Matt, your product has a very specific need, a very specific niche in terms of cleaning. Is this issue of collaboration, conflict, is that an issue?
No, we don't really see that at all. I mean, in terms of conflict, hardly ever. I mean, certainly in the warehouses that I go into, the distribution centres, people are very, very open to autonomous solutions. And I think just generally the way of the world now, it's almost normal, it's inevitable. So I think people are really on board with it, and they see the benefits to their own working environment and how automation can benefit them as an individual too. But from a business perspective, if you have got a machine that can essentially clean a warehouse autonomously, and then that person can then go off and do what they may class as higher value tasks. And certainly in this day and age with, dare I say, the COVID pandemic, and, cleaning has never been more and more at the forefront of probably everyone's thinking. So whether it's a warehouse or a shopping mall or an airport, you've got to do additional cleaning these days. And I think by having an autonomous solution to do the hard yards, if you like, that, as I say, allows people to go off and do additional cleaning that maybe wasn't in scope 2 years ago. So for me, I'm firmly in the collaboration camp.
Have any of you on the panel experienced, the theme of this panel is collaboration or conflict. Have you experienced scenarios where there has been conflict in terms of implementation?
If I can answer on that,
yeah.
I think the conflicts are more in how you define and implement the process. It's indeed not easy to make humans and machine really work together in a process. Of course, there are collaborative robots, etc. But we have to be honest, it's much easier to do a process which is 100% automatic and no humans put the hands in than doing one where you have to share that. And there are applications where you are obliged to share. So the conflicts, they arise when you have to educate people about how to interact with the machine. You have to train people how to use the machines. These are conflicts that I think every one of us are facing one day or the other, but they are completely normal. It's just part of the evolution, and there is need for education, for training, in order to make sure that all this works well and that the performance and efficiency is at the level we expect.
Paul, I think we can, and sorry to jump in, but
yeah, do.
I think our experience is a little bit different. I'm thinking through all of our sites. We've never had an issue with staff when we're putting in a robot solution. Now, to Nikolai's point, we do make sure as part of our deployment program that we help our customers make sure they communicate what's happening in the warehouse effectively, and that's absolutely very important. But if you went, even after a couple of hours use, if you went to an employee and said, right now you can stop using the chuck, you've now got to go back to your manual cart, you would have a mutiny on your hands, because it's just much harder work. And they absolutely love using they love the experience, and particularly for younger generations. Again, to Nikolai's point about an aging workforce, that we have to attract younger people into warehouses and to do these jobs. And frankly, they're almost surprised that they're not using a robot if they go into a manual environment, because their whole life is digital and they're using complex technology all day long. So it's almost sort of, as I think, as Matt said, it's expected.
Yeah. Anybody want to add to any of those points around conflict? Marcel or Samuel?
I agree. When it comes to this kind of new technology, more of a challenge some years ago. Now, when we have self-driving cars, vacuum cleaners, lawn movers, and so on, everyone is so used to it. So it's of course important with change management, and something you should not underestimate. But it's much easier nowadays, I would say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think it's all about change management. So you need to create an awareness at the people, so they see the robot as a part of the production, and not as something dangerous or threatening their jobs. They need to collaborate with it, and I think it's all about the change management to teach your people how to treat the robots rightly. Right.
And there's another sort of related subject. What are the customer fears when they take on, that might prevent them wanting to take on an optimization project of this nature? Because it's a big undertaking, isn't it? The customer, and by this I'm talking about the decision maker, not the user in the warehouse. How can you address any fears that they might have about maybe the cost, or how long it will take, or how disruptive it might be? And maybe if I come to you on that, Simon.
I think, and again, I can only speak from personal experience. It's and as I mentioned earlier, we will work with a customer and build a business case. And it's a question of the things that can delay things are, have I got the resources to do the IT integration? Now, although the IT integration is relatively light, you know, for the same reasons that there's few people working in warehouses right now, getting IT resources is very tight as well. So, and very often those IT teams that they have at our customers are already very stretched. So it can delay a project simply because they don't have any bandwidth for 12 months. But I think the only other thing that concerns a decision maker is it actually going to do what they say it's going to do? And in our case, what we do is we will take them to customers where, you know, who've had the system for some time and realize the benefits that were projected in the same way.
Sure. Anyone want to add to that? Nicola, do you have some views?
I don't want to take. Yeah, I can. Again, we are technology suppliers, but we also help our customers in this, especially for their new customers. First of all, our technology addresses exactly this. I mean, in a kind of very simplistic way, one says automation is 30% about component cost and 70% about integration. So the integration is the key risk. And this is clear also for the end customer, and I completely understand. So how to address this? Two ways. In our case, we provide a technology that makes commissioning, installation, etc. easier, one thing. And the second one, I can only agree with Simon, we bring end customers to existing sites of our customer to show them, look how it works, talk with the people, listen what they say, and this brings a level of trust which is very high, because you need that, as you said, Paul, it's a big jump, especially for certain processes to start the automation. So right technology and references to show that it works.
Marcel, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to add something to that. I also agree that many customers have the fear that it doesn't work like it does in the model. We present them the model and they somehow believe it's too good to be true, like we do all the calculation and everything, and then they're like, oh, but is it really going to work like that in reality? So and is it really worth the money that we're going to invest? Because normally it's big investments if you automate your material flows. So how do we solve that problem? No, we kind of adjusted our pricing model for that. So of course we also offer the full package. They can get everything straight away, but we also like to work with POCs, so proof of concept. So they get like one vehicle on place, and where there's only one small use case that we solve with our vehicle. So they get to know the vehicle, they see how it works, they see it work in reality. And normally after 3 months, when the POC is over, they decide if they want the whole system or if they don't like it. So, and in all of the cases that we had POC so far, we could convince them that it's also working in reality. And also, what also takes the fear sometimes is is a rental model. So instead of offering all the full package, like as an investment, we also offer rental models, which also takes some fear of the high investment.
Okay, thank you. And Samuel, anything to add? As I say, you're not dealing directly with customers, but what would be your view of that?
No, I agree upon what's being said, and I think as mentioned here, a reference site is often very good to and really talk to the people there. I agree around that. It's a good approach, I would say.
Next point around pace of change. We know that automation is a huge, fast-growing process. Have you found, all of you, that the pandemic has accelerated the pace of change with regard to customers wishing to automate? Simon?
I think the short answer is yes, for other reasons we've already talked about. But of course, e-commerce has, gone through the roof. Our parent company, Shopify, has, which basically provides platforms for small merchants to sell their products on, has gone through the roof, and so is our part of this, the ecosystem, if you like, which is the fulfillment. So, yeah, it's a massively increased demand, paired with that issue we've talked about earlier, and that's the shortage of people. In fact, maybe if I get to talk about a customer in a minute, I'll give an example of that.
No, we'll do that in a couple of minutes, yes. Nicola, anything to add to that?
Just a short comment. I think that with the pandemic, there are some winners and some losers. And I think that even the loser will be winner after the pandemic. Then, of course, during the pandemic, we had some clear winners, e-commerce for sure. So we are in a market that is booming anyway. I think some markets may have, or some segments may have some ups and downs. If I think about automotive, which is doing quite well in Europe, or other more classical application, they have been slowed down simply by the fact that if you were not the highest priority, the travel ban or travel limitation could have slowed down the installation, and this can delay a little bit the market. But the expectation is a huge rebound. We were already before the pandemic in one of the fastest growing markets. If you look at the International Federation of Robotics, the statistics they have in service robotics, all what has to do with AGVs, AMR is the largest segment today with the highest growth rate over the last years. And this is expected to continue like this for the next years.
Okay, Marcel?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The e-commerce boom is also very good for the automation boom, of course, and also the AGV and AMR boom. And of course, robots can't get COVID, so that's also, yeah. But
yeah, so we've got broad agreement on that then. Anything, Matt or Samuel, to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just think from our side of things, working in a cleaning business. As I said to you 5-10 minutes ago, cleaning has become more and more prominent in all walks of life. And as Marcel said, an autonomous solution can't get ill. To put it bluntly, a robot will still work regardless of what's going on. So, yeah, it's only going to get bigger and bigger. As I said to you, one of my 3 key words is inevitable. It's happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, look, I want to ask just the massively important sector, and I'm asking most of the panels about this, is I think a lot of companies are going to have to start thinking about, well, they are already, of course, but they're going to think in more detail about sustainability, net zero, carbon emissions. What contribution can your products make in that area? Or is it not something that your customers have been asking about? Simon, should we start with you again?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be perfectly frank with you, any robot is going to use some power. There's no getting away from that, really. But I think the design of the solution and the way that it's done, it can have a massive impact. Again, speaking from personal experience, our robots use very little power, and it's partly because we're not carrying more product than we need to, which, depending on the sort of structure of the system you have, some automated picking systems or autonomous picking systems mean you're carrying a lot more product than you need to every time you make a product movement. So it's things like that, and just making sure that you minimize the amount of power that you use. And in fairness, we're often compared with fixed automation like conveyors and sorters and things like that, that kind of solution, which use a lot of power. So with a flexible system like an autonomous robot, you are minimizing the amount of power used by the building.
Anyone got anything they want to add to that in terms of the contribution to the sustainability debate that this?
Yeah, one thing from me, Paul, a lot of our machines are completely detergent free, so there's no detergent used at all, just tap water. And we would say that it probably saves 70% water compared to a conventional machine. And water's expensive these days. Not only is it an environmental tick in the box, it's also a cost saving there as well, and everything that goes with purchasing, handling, chemicals. So from our side of things, the fact that you can just use cold tap water and it will actually run up to 70% longer without refills and so on, we see that as a real benefit.
Okay, thank you.
I can just add also that if you compare with manual forklift, we use software that utilize and route the fleet of mobile robots, so it goes more effectively. So you're partly reducing both the driving distance, but you also lower the total energy consumption. So that is really helpful. And also with automation, you kind of have the mobile robots that drive more, you could say, careful, so they have a longer lifespan. So the robot and the resources we have will actually last longer. And I think also that you can operate without humans. So you can go with what you call a lights out factory. So you can lower the temperatures, you don't need lighting and so on. So there are lots of opportunities here with mobile robots and robots.
To go, right. Okay, well, look, we've had a great debate here. I want to give each of you the chance to talk about it, maybe a use case or a customer success story, just for a couple of minutes, just to illustrate what it is you do, perhaps with a bit more clarity for our viewers. So who shall we start with? Marcel, why don't you go first with that?
Well, I can go first, but let me first think of a good use case that I want to present, because there are many actually. Well,
shall I come back
start.
to you?
No. I can start. But I would maybe like to start from a more top view. So normally we can do, if you consider a normal warehouse, our HGVs normally do the waste between the incoming goods to the warehouse, from the warehouse to the packing, or from the packing to the outgoing goods. And what is currently pretty much booming in our area, especially because we do small load handling, is the way from the warehouse to the packaging, where you have those warehouses for small loads, such as AutoStore, for example, or Cardex, where they where the small boxes come out. You have the picker, and the picker then normally puts it on a trolley and brings it to the packaging, for example, or you have static conveyors that bring it to the packaging. And this process is very likely to be solved by our AGVs, because we also do small load handling. So you have the picker at the port of the warehouse. He picks the goods, and we normally then have a small conveyor where he puts the goods, and we then come with our vehicle, take it from the conveyor and bring it to the packaging area, for example. This is a solution where we still have the human break in between. So we still have the picker in between that picks it from the warehouse and puts it onto the conveyor. But there are also solutions where it's fully automated, for example, where you have fully automated outgoing goods from the warehouse, and they go straight on a conveyor and onto our vehicle then. So this is a very common use case for e-commerce as well, because in e-commerce you normally have small goods. Most packages are small and not too heavy. So yeah.
Thank you, Marcel. Okay,
That's
Nicola,
about the application. Thank you.
Well, again, remember, as a technology supplier, our story is a little bit different, but I think one example we can take, I mean, our goal is to help companies, vehicle suppliers to meet the challenge of the automation of their vehicles. So we have customers that already have automated vehicles, or AMRs, and they want to step on our technology. So we help them integrating. And we have also other companies that really have a use case, but they do not have even the competencies to design and develop a vehicle. So one example we can take is our collaboration with the company Opent in Italy, that were integrating AGVs from a third party first, and they decided to have their own AGVs, and we were co-designing a vehicle with them in the beginning. That was already almost 10 years ago. And really, so we helped them in designing the first vehicle for hospital logistics first. They took this over, they started production, and I think that the success that we want to tell you is that today they have probably, I think, about 25 different AGV models that they have completely designed by themselves based on our technology, and they can make all different type of vehicles work together, even other brands, by using our technology, which is a clear success that we had. And this again is because the market is booming, is huge, there is enough space for everyone. We need to be able to deliver good quality, excellent quality to the market and make the customer happy.
Thank you. Matt?
I mean, for me, rather than give a specific customer, I think I'll just give you a couple of bullet points, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do, yeah. We're actually quite short of time, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's good time then. So, for example, we've got over 180 unique customers that are using an autonomous solution to keep their floors clean and safe. We've actually got over 3.5 million hours of recorded data in autonomous mode, 3.5 million hours. We've got over 5,000 units deployed across the globe, with actually 36 billion square feet of a floor cleaned by these autonomous solutions. So yeah, it's onwards and upwards for us at Tennant.
Good story. Thanks, Matt. Simon?
I'd like to tell you about Crocs, a name that everybody will know, and a site that we're very proud of. It won't surprise you to know that at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, Crocs were in great demand, and of course that meant e-commerce because you couldn't go to the shop to buy them. Yeah. And their e-commerce volumes just rocketed, and they realised that sort of by around about June time, they could see that they were just not going to be able to compete with peak or cope with peak because it was going to overwhelm their operations. So they needed to set up effectively a pop-up warehouse on an enormous scale, 75,000 units a day that they were shipping out or needed to ship out. And they came to ours, and together we put together and set up a warehouse to cope with that volume and that peak volume in less than 3 months from the discussion to actually going live to full volume in less than 3 months. And I think that demonstrates the flexibility of the solution we have. And just to give you some numbers, they improved their pick rate by 180%, so that's nearly 3 times. And they reached volume within 2 days of the initial turn on. So it was a really exciting project, and the full case study and video is available on our website.
Thank you, Simon. I hope that doesn't mean you're now a Croc wearer, though.
No comment.
Samuel, we'll come to you last but not least.
Yes, it's hard to pick one. We have a pretty massive partner network, and we are, of course, very proud enabling all new partners that we get. So I think our partner network is our success story, and that is growing in this tailwind market. So I will not pick one case, but just the whole partner network.
Body of work, yeah. Well, thank you so much, and thanks to everybody on the panel. I think it's been a very insightful and certainly useful discussion, certainly for me. It's great to have such a breadth of expertise from around Europe. So as I say to our viewers, please do use the chat facility to ask any questions that you have. Meanwhile, thanks to Matt from Tennant, to Simon from Six River, to Nicola from Robotics, to Marcel from Caribot, and to Samuel from Cole Morgan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.